Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one following up our Rengar guide and our dominate early guide about being very strong and alpha early, putting your foot down and taking control of a game. Some junglers just don't have that capacity. Some junglers just match up poorly to other strong early game junglers. And even if you do happen to perhaps match up well in a 1v1 sense, if the enemy jungler is a strong ganking, very high pressured early game jungler, thinking Pantheon, Elise, and you want to get your form, you want to get some items, maybe you're a Kayn or Master Yi, or maybe you're just a tank who really struggles to skirmish 1v1, and instead want to gain some items, support your team a bit more, well, your game plan will be slightly different. You won't want to go and 1v1 them, you won't want to invade looking to fight, you won't be able to exert that same kind of damage-orientated pressure early. And so we are going to look at some later game styles of jungling versus those early game styles of jungling and what you have to do differently and keep in mind as you navigate the early phases of the game. And now we have a very nice breakdown of a Kayn vs Elise game where not only was the Kayn, of course, not able to exert that same kind of pressure, his lanes also started losing. However, if you are playing a tanky jungler or something that's just perhaps not the best skirmisher, here are a few things you need to keep in mind. When you are clearing your jungle, sometimes that means you might need to go for full clears rather than go for scuttle battles. You might need to ignore the fact that scuttle exists because if you don't have lane priority, you're not going to be able to come away alive. However, even if you're playing an off-meta tank jungler, a Maokai, this is from a while back, but I like this game a lot because I was against a Rengar who was really trying to do the Alpha Kitty playstyle that I outlined in the last video, and trying to get off a gank early, invade early, and we're able to turn it around where I actually kill him, which is fortuitous. I was just planning on doing a full clear and ignoring the rivers and just trying to get lane ganks because if Rengar finds me, I'm not going to be able to take him 1v1 at all. As such, this does give me an early Moby Boots buy, and what I do here is I don't go anywhere near the Rengar. I'm looking to set up vision and pressure lanes. I'm not looking to outfarm him, I'm not looking to outscale him in the levels because I'm not going to be able to do that. You need to get yourself and your lanes fed through relentless ganking, which is what I do in this Maokai game here. And eventually, because of the fact that I've been pinging and helping lanes a lot, laners are more inclined to look to see if they can help you. I make sure to place a control wall down on my second red buff, and as you can see I am behind, but the Rengar's greed to try and shut down the enemy weaker jungler, I am much weaker than him, he wants to defeat me, take me off the map, stop my relentless ganking. However, I should have probably hit the plant, but I don't. My relay does rotate and we're able to secure a kill on him. His aggression has been punished, and his desire to shut me down in the 1v1 area hasn't worked because I've been camping side lanes and hugging walls and using good vision just to gank my lanes. I'm not looking to fight him whatsoever. So keep that in mind if you are playing a tanky jungler. Tracking the enemy jungler when you are significantly weaker can result in you having that experience lead and denying them heavily in terms of their lane pressure as well as their own experience gains over you. Now naturally, very briefly, let's just look at this example of me being Ornn versus Kha'Zix, who, you know, it's Kha'Zix, he's gonna chunk whoever I am basically. In this one, I need to be very careful about where the Kha'Zix is going to be, and as always, vision is crucial. Now in this case, I have started on the top side, I want that red buff, I want to go and help my bottom lane, I want to do the same thing I did with the Maokai versus the Rengar, look to gank and not look to skirmish the Kha'Zix whatsoever. Unfortunately, my bot lane both die while trying to do the cheese in the bottom lane bush, who knows why. I was just planning on doing a red to Raptors to bottom side scuttle and hoping they had lane priority or someone had lane priority to help me. And if they did not, I was simply going to go and do my wolves and my blue, perhaps Grump before ganking on the bottom lane. I was just positioning myself to have options depending on where the Kha'Zix went, tracking his movements. Now because my bottom lane died, and because very clearly I started on the top side, the Kha'Zix is just assuming I'm gonna be doing some kind of full clear, maybe looking at that top side scuttle, so he is gonna go and sneak away my blue. Now unfortunately for him, for once my team helped me and placed a ward in the pixel bush, and this is why it's so important. And because of that, and because they didn't, I can actually flank from behind and the Vel'Koz helps me. Now, Kha'Zix was pretty much stuck anyway. I don't think he would have escaped even with the Vel'Koz's help. Kha'Zix's downside against a Rengar is that he doesn't have that hard CC early. His first clear can be a little bit more on the dodgy side if you don't know what you're doing. But nevertheless, he's still a very strong, dominating champion overall in a 1v1 sense. And when he gets fed, can really start chunking you. And so, the fact that he made this mistake is what I'm trying to illustrate to you. When an enemy jungler who is technically better 1v1, who will push you off of rivers and neutral areas, it's very crucial that if they make one little mistake or if you contract them in any way, you now look to deny them as much as possible. So because I know Kha'Zix did his red, got denied at my blue, he's gonna go to the top side, try get that scuttle and clear that whole edge of the map, which Kha'Zix is much better at clearing. I do the scuttle after my blue and then go and take his raptors and krugs, knowing full well he's not going to come back there. And I leave behind a baby raptor because I don't want the camps to reset and give him boosted rubber banded XP. I'm trying to deny his spike as much as possible. If I full clear it, it's going to respawn at a high experience level, give him some catch-up experience because he will be behind the average level on the map given his slow beginnings, and I really don't want that. So I leave the baby raptor, and the nice thing about Ornn is while I'm waiting for the minion wave to pass so I don't get detected going to his krugs, I can simply buy in the field. Next up, I go and do the krugs, and again, I leave behind the baby. I'm trying to stifle that experience as much as possible, and I will show you in a second the impact of my decision. When you are a tank jungler, when you are weaker early, and you do get this opportunity to counter jungle, it is absolutely amazing to gank from these unique angles from behind, especially when laners don't have any summoner spells. And if other laners like the Ziggs decide to collapse, you now have numbers advantages, you can throw your Q completely to the side because apparently you're cross-eyed, grab another kill for your Zed, and now you well and truly have navigated that really crucial early game phase, and lanes that were dying and losing by themselves, you've given them some of that gold back, you've given them experience advantages, and you yourself are ahead of the Kha'Zix and have had more early game impact, which is what we're looking for while trying to scale faster and deny the stronger early game jungler or the stronger 1v1 jungler to get so far ahead of you that you actually can't impact lanes whatsoever and you basically lose within 25 minutes. Now, just to fast forward a little bit, look at this scenario. I meet the Kha'Zix in the river in a minute or two and he's level 3 to me being level 5. Now, on the face of it, it looks like I'm chunking him very well, but my cooldowns are simply significantly higher. Once Aftershock has gone away and I've got nothing left to fight with, I'm not really going to sit around and auto a Kha'Zix. Also, Soraka has rotated. He's level 3 and I'm level 5 and I'm still being chunked and forced to back out. That's why it's so important to get that lead, to deny that experience, because otherwise if he was level 5 and had long swords and was beating me out 1v1, it would be a very difficult game for you to handle as the weaker jungler. Now, of course, these examples were based upon being a tank, but it works if you're anyone that is weaker 1v1 that can counter jungle and still have good ganks on lanes. And yes, it was based upon the two junglers that should be beating me 1v1 and having more lane impact, making mistakes. But now let's look at our core example to see how things play out when you don't exactly have the enemy jungler being a toaster. And to do that, we're going to have a challenger game where a Kayn is playing versus Elise, and the Kayn's laners behave like there are actually gold 3. And so you would have seen the Kayn starting in a weird position sitting in the bush and gets collapsed on. However, at least him and Elise are both able to pick up a kill. And now, how do we go about playing the game from Kayn's perspective? Remember, Kayn is not a tank jungler. Kayn can farm quickly. Kayn is not absolutely terrible early game. It's just you do not have nearly as much impact as a more fully fledged champion at this stage. You're looking to get your power spike as soon as possible, and to do that you can't avoid fighting. You do need to gank, you do need to skirmish. However, like in the previous examples, you're trying to deny the enemy and keep them away from having a super strong lane impact. And the benefit of Kayn is because he knows that Elise started on that red buff and he had to solo his red, he can still use his E to navigate the map very quickly and make sure he goes and secures a topside scuttle. Elise was a little lower on HP than Kayn after the first bot fight. Well, technically higher because Kayn died, but you get the point. So she's not really looking to contest those scuttle crabs. However, Kayn's whole goal here, and this is very important, is to use unique pathing to surprise the enemy jungler who is technically meant to be exerting more pressure into making mistakes, into being surprised by your location. Kind of what I did with the Ornn versus the Kha'Zix, and also what the Kayn's going to do here. And so he goes from scuttle to secure both of those, knowing full well the Elise would have gone from red up to the blue buff. And so the fact that he walked across mid lane to get the second scuttle is of no consequence to him or to anyone on his team, and he simply goes and takes her raptors and krugs. Now, he could look for a gank in the bottom lane, but he doesn't really have a kit that would be perfect for tower diving early, and at the moment his whole battle is with the Elise, is with pathing, and is with surviving and getting ahead of her as much as possible. And so because of the scuttle crab and the good vision by his mid laner on the top side, they see Elise try and sneak a gank in the mid lane before heading into his jungle. And this is where the surprise pathing comes in. He could very easily go back into his jungle, clear his whole blue side, and give up his top red side to her. You know, sort of vertical jungling. She takes his raptors and krugs, he takes hers, but you don't want to give away things for free. Now, because it's an early clear, most junglers will not be full HP after doing all the camps, after being out for a few minutes, and so he goes back to base and immediately heads directly to the Raptors. Because he gets the jump on her and she's low, he almost gets away with getting a kill on her, in the end burning a flash for flash, and definitely would have surprised the Elise with that pathing, fully expecting him to be taking his blue side camps at this moment in time. Now, Kayn, because of this play, can go and clear his blue side. And unlike the tank example where you're saying, well, clearly Kha'Zix is a better jungler than Ornn, Kayn is still a good jungler and a very strong champion once he gets his forms. So you're kind of not as surprised by his decisions and his impact so far on the Elise. However, let me show you why it's so important for Kayn to navigate this matchup well, because if Elise gets a jump on you, you're gonna have problems. So the Elise comes back from having to retreat back to base after the collision at Raptors, and she skirts by bot lane. None of her camps are up obviously because the Kayn took them. She places a control ward in the river bush and then loops around the top to place a ward in Kayn's jungle. This is what she wants to do. She wants to gank, she wants to keep the Kayn down, she doesn't want to let him get his form. Now the Kayn has cleared of course his blue side jungle, and because of her good vision control and good pathing to get it done, Kayn walks right by the control ward, not expecting it to be there and not noticing that it's there, before looking to have a cheeky tower dive on the mid lane. Of course the Elise saw him do this and heads in that direction, and with a full combo, hitting that cocoon, the W, the Q, switching to spider form, he gets chunked very quickly, collapsed upon, and he dies. The Elise survives, fortunately, good rotation by her bot lane, but the Kayn was 2 levels up and he got chunked and eradicated from that, much like I almost did as Ornn vs Kha'Zix. So the fact that she's 2 levels down is of no consequence to an early game jungler because you have good levels, because you have good damage, nice jungling kits. You don't necessarily need to be 2 levels up or the same levels. You can still be 2 levels down and have a strong impact on the enemy jungler. And so the Kayn's good work early stifled her, but if she was level 5 and perhaps had an Amp Tome, a Dark Seal, a bit more items, he might have actually died right off the bat and wouldn't be able to make such aggressive plays. Now the next phase for Kayn here is to try and keep doing what he's doing, but maybe be a bit more reserved in his counter jungling aggression. He does sneak away the Krugs, he does get a nice opportunistic gank in the mid lane, which is what you're looking for when you are a jungler looking to scale, get your form or whatever. You want to be there to capitalize on mistakes and any mispositions as much as possible because you are not the champion that can dictate that like an Elise or a Pantheon or Elise Sin. Now because of this and because of Elise having lane priority with the Talon, the bot lane winning, they're able to sort of try and get a 4-man dive, she's able to take the dragon. Kayn on the other hand can at least take her blue because of this and get a nice gank off on the Kayle. If in doubt, go gank a Kayle, pretty easy in the early game, even as Kayn, get some of those valuable orbs. But as an extension of that, the Elise tower dives in the bottom lane, gets 2 kills, Kayn at least tries to hold off the tower as best he can, and it might not show up exactly as I said. You will see as he goes to his Grump, Kai'Sa tries to hit it with a W because they're annoyed at his lack of lane pressure, they're annoyed at his lack of ganks. All he's doing is counter jungling from their perspective. Elise has showed multiple times for tower dives and ganks on the bottom side, but what they don't understand is Kayn just cannot match that kind of pressure early, and aside from his silly death, he's actually had an exemplary early game, a little late on the form, but he's counter jungled well, he's gotten a couple of kills, he's gotten some ganks, burned off Kayle's ultimate. He has done as well as he could have given the lane states. So he continues to full clear his jungle, counter jungle where possible, counter gank where he can, and Elise continues to gank the side lanes, take towers with her team. And so as this transitions into the mid game, Kayn has done his job. Eventually he does actually get his form, but he has a significant experience lead on the enemy jungler. However, they have a net loss in terms of objectives, in terms of dragons, in terms of literally everything else. And so now the transitions from playing a scaling jungler versus an early game jungler to how to come back into the game and manage the situation, which is of course the topic of a video I addressed last month, and I will link it in the description for you so you can know what to do from this situation onward if you were, for example, the Kayn. In terms of jungling, the summary of what you need to do and what he did will be on the bottom left of your screen, and you will see some assorted clips of how this Kayn used his Shadow Assassin form and his lead to completely decimate the enemy with some of the most disgusting damage you will see coming out of a jungler. He does go Dark Harvest, he knew he was stacking it, he was giving up early game pressure, and that was the game plan from his perspective, and he executed very well, barring a mistake here and there. Hopefully this picture can give you an idea of what to do when you're in the weak end of the jungle matchup. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and comment if you learned something and enjoyed. Consider joining us on YouTube to become an official member. Subscribe for more League of Legends and jungle videos coming very soon. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.